Which former Ducks are we rooting for in this year's playoffs, and what are my playoff predictions? I'll tell you on this edition of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jason J.D. Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for over a decade. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Don't forget, this podcast is free and available on all platforms. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. And also, especially on the audio side, subscribe on Spotify and ad-free on Amazon. So check us out there. Sincere apologies for this. The video is a little bit off, and because I'm kind of rushing between venues, there will be no video for this particular podcast. We'll be back with video for goals, and then we have our mailbag. Just to remind everybody here, the episodes are coming out a lot faster on the audio side, simply because there is hardly any time to edit video right now since I'm doing a lot of Firebird stuff right now. So I'm going to keep it honest for you guys. But we'll be back with our regular video. I'm assuming when the Firebirds run ends at some point. Oh, yeah. All right. So let's talk about former Ducks. Why am I talking about former Ducks? Well, I do this every year. I've done this for 4 years, and the Ducks have not made the playoffs in any of those 4 years. Therefore, I've kind of taken it upon myself to try to find some fun content, give a reason for Ducks fans to watch the Stanley Cup Playoffs, because there's a lot of good teams out there, and there's some great former Ducks still competing to have their name etched on Lord Stanley's Cup. Last season, we saw Cogs win it, and we also saw Manson win it with the Colorado Avs. So, see, those are the kind of things that you want to root for. You always are happy to see guys that used to be on your team win the cup, and you're happy for them, and you're proud of them. And frankly, we should be proud of them, because there are plenty of former Ducks out there that are very deserving of getting their name etched on Lord Stanley's Cup. A few in particular, and one in particular that hasn't gotten one on his cup in 15, 16 years now. 16 years. Oh man, that's a long time. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to start in the Eastern Conference, because it's more fun that way. And I will just tell you right now, there are, let me do my count here so far, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I've got, as of right now, 14 former Ducks competing for Lord Stanley's Cup. And this is going to be interesting to see which names might go on this year. So that's what this episode is all about. And I'm going to start with the New York Islanders. And first name I want to get off right off the bat, Kyle Palmieri. Kyle Palmieri was on those Ducks teams early last decade that led them to some pretty deep runs. Unfortunately, he was also on those teams that won Game 7s at home multiple times. So while there are some good memories, there's also a bit of sour memories. But he had some pretty solid years in 2013, 2014, and especially 2015. He was starting to really come into his own in 2015. And right when he was at his prime, he got shipped off to New Jersey. And now he's with the Islanders, where he's still doing well. He scored 33 points this past season, matching the previous year. Except this year, he's doing it at a much better pace. And frankly, looking a little bit better when he's healthy. See the caveat there? When he's healthy, he's pretty solid. As of right now, the Islanders are in the midst of trying to upend the Carolina Hurricanes. That's going to be a tough series. But good for Palmieri, still chasing that cup after this is now his 13th year in the National Hockey League. So maybe if you want to root for the Islanders, maybe if you're someone that's looking for a former player, Kyle Palmieri's always been kind of a classy guy, always kind of like a good guy. Not really a bad guy. And I've always liked Palms. I was a little bit sad when he left Anaheim. But, that's how it goes. And he's got a little bit of grit to him, too. A little bit of that panache. Not afraid to get into a scuffle. I like that. So that's Kyle Palmieri. Next on the list, I think I have to go here right now because this is someone that I was sad when he left, when he got dealt. Hampus Lindholm. Hampus Lindholm, if you might recall, was traded in last season's trade deadline. But, you know what? We got a first-round pick last year out of it. That wound up being the number 10 pick. The 20s. So that was pretty solid. Also, we got a second-round pick out of it for this year and a second next season. And also Vakanainen and some guy named John Moore, who were finally getting off the books, thank goodness. Right now, it's looking like Boston is completely winning that trade, especially considering that Boston re-signed him to a multi-year deal, a very long multi-term deal. You want to talk about someone that didn't really light up the score sheet, but he was supremely solid on defense, and that's what I miss a lot. I miss someone that is going to get those block shots and not be afraid to take the blocks. Someone that's not going to be afraid to take any hits. Someone that is going to give you a 200-foot game. This season with the Bruins, he got 100 blocked shots and got it was a career high. 53 points this season, 10 goals, but 43 assists in that very potent Boston Bruins offense. The Bruins broke a record for most wins, most points this season. And there have been a couple players, Brad Marchand being one of them, Pasta being another one, by the way, and I forget who else, but there's been a couple other players that have actually said that Hampus is one of the big differences for the Boston Bruins this season compared to prior years. And this is longtime Bruins guys talking. For them to say that Hampus Lindholm is a big difference maker and a big reason why the Bruins are where they are, you realize that the Ducks really kind of took Lindholm for granted. I think we all took Lindholm for granted, and now he is flourishing with the Boston Bruins. And you know what? I'm going to say this. I would not mind if Boston won it. Hampus Lindholm was one of my guys in Anaheim. I'd like to see him win the Stanley Cup this season. I think it'd be cool for Lindholm to win one and to see him lift that cup. That would be cool. How about Josh Mahura? Josh Mahura, another defenseman that the Ducks dealt away to the Florida Panthers. So far, actually I take it back. He was off of waivers. The Ducks waived him and Florida picked him up in that bad waive deal. It is what it is. Mahura, not doing too bad with the Florida Panthers. He actually played in all 82 games for Florida this season. So he's got a bit of an iron. I shouldn't say that. He's 24 years old. He's young. But the fact that he's played all 82 games and does give them some solid defense, that does speak volumes for the young defenseman. So good for him. How about another one from the Eastern Conference, Freddie Anderson? Freddie Anderson hasn't played in the playoffs yet, but he is still on the Carolina Hurricanes roster right now. Carolina could win the whole thing, and Freddie Anderson could be a big difference. I also got to remind you that he was on the all-rookie team with the Anaheim Ducks back in 2014 and also won the Jennings Trophy a couple times. So Freddie gave his all with the Anaheim Ducks. In 3 years, he posted a 77, 26, and 12 record. That is a freaking good winning percentage. Save percentage was .918. Goals against was .233. He was solid. He was very solid with the Anaheim Ducks. I kind of wish we would have kept him. But no, that's not to be. There was that trade that wound up with Sam Steele, who himself got dealt away, but that will come in the second part of this show. And then we have to leave the last two for obvious reasons. Tampa Bay Lightning, Pat Maroon, you all know about him. He won 3 cups in a row, 1 with St. Louis, 2 with Tampa Bay. And then Corey Perry. Corey Perry's in Tampa Bay. Corey Perry has been in 3 consecutive Stanley Cups and lost 3 consecutive times. If Tampa Bay can somehow, I don't think this will happen this year, but if they can make it to the Stanley Cup final and they lose again, how's it going to feel for Corey Perry to lose 4 in a row? Or if they somehow make it that far, would you rather see him just lift the cup for the first time in 16 years? So those are some of the guys in the Eastern Conference that you may or may not be cheering for. For me personally, out of the guys that I've mentioned, I think I got to root for Hampus Lindholm on this one. Just because he's been in the league a while and he's never won it. And, he just kind of goes about his business and doesn't really take anyone off. And I liked him. I liked him a lot in Anaheim. So that's my pick. Hampus Lindholm, go get your cup. All right, we're going to head to the first intermission, and we'll go to the Western Conference after this brief intermission. Stay locked in. But first, let's talk about Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar ever. That is right, Built Bars are better than ever, packed with a lot of protein, 17 grams of protein, only 4 grams of sugar, and only about 130 to 150 calories. So those macros are excellent. And of course, you could pick up Built Bars at your local Walmart or your local Sam's Club because we have them out there now. Woohoo! Or you could go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCKEDON15 to get 15% off your next order of Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar ever. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you're locked in with Jason JD Hernandez. Let's go to the Western Conference. Former Ducks that you may or may not want to cheer for. Do you want to cheer for them? Do you not care? Do you not want to see any former Ducks win the cup? If you answered yes to that, I know you're lying. Because I saw Ducks Twitter with the crying face and the happy face when they saw Cogs win, especially when they saw Manson win it. I read a lot of your tweets. I saw what y'all were replying. Y'all were happy to see Josh Manson win the cup. It's inevitable. It happens. You want those former guys to win the cup. So I'm going to start with the aforementioned Josh Manson, who is currently seeking his second consecutive cup with the Colorado Avalanche. It still kind of hurts me to say that Josh Manson is part of the Colorado Avs. But he got his cup last season, hoping to get another one. Hey, you know what? Why not? Give it to another good defenseman who just kind of goes about his business, doesn't get a lot of goals, but plays solid defense. Imagine that. Imagine losing your 2 best defensemen on the same trade deadline and then completely crapping the bed after that. Remember that after the trade deadline last year, the Ducks had the worst record from that date to the end of the last season. And they had the worst record this season. So yeah, ever since last year's trade deadline, the Ducks have been the worst in the National Hockey League. After losing Lindholm and Josh Manson. Is that a coincidence? I don't know if that's a coincidence or not. But the pattern's there. Just saying. But at least the Ducks get a second round pick this draft and also got Drew Hellison. So, hey, for whatever that's worth. Let's go to who Colorado's playing, and that is the Seattle Kraken. Now, there's a couple guys on the Kraken. Actually, no, I take that back. There's one guy on the Kraken right now that, for whatever it's worth, you may root for him. You might not. I don't know if anyone here is going to root for Daniel Sprong. I mean, Sprong did have a couple years in Anaheim. They went okay. They went all right. But he has found his game with the Kraken. He got a career-high 21 goals this season. I still can't believe he got above 20 goals in 66 games. Gotta be honest, when the Ducks picked him up, I didn't see him as a 20-goal scorer. But then again, we had him for partial seasons, so maybe that was part of it. We didn't have him long enough in Anaheim. But so far, he's had a breakout season with Seattle. They actually stole a game against the Colorado Avs. So maybe you want to root for Daniel Sprong. Maybe, maybe not. Or maybe you want to go to the dark side and root for the Vegas Golden Knights. Why would you? I'm partially kidding. Partially. Why would you root for Vegas Golden Knights? Well, I mean, there's no former Ducks in Winnipeg, so maybe that's part of it. But you also got Shea Theodore. Yeah, I know. I know hearing that name is probably like nails to a chalkboard to some Ducks fans, but Shea Theodore, he's a former Duck, and he's with Vegas right now, for whatever that's worth. And I don't know if I'd count this because this was so long ago, but how about Wild Bill? William Karlsson. He was only in Anaheim for a cup of coffee, but he is still a former Duck, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And then there's that other series, Minnesota and Dallas. Let's start with Dallas. Another pretty good defenseman that I thought was simply not given the chance in Anaheim, Jani Hakanpää. Hakanpää got a career-high 6 goals, 10 assists, 16 points. He played all 82 games. He's also someone that is more known for being a pest on the defensive end and for getting some crushing hits and for taking out guys and for blocking shots. That's the kind of player that he is. And wow, all these defensemen that I've listed play good defense. They hit hard. They block shots. And you wonder why the Anaheim Ducks had a historically bad defense this season. Look at all the former Ducks on the other teams. So, Jani Hakanpää, I think more Gulls fans are going to root for Jani Hakanpää because he had more time down in San Diego than he did in Anaheim. So maybe if you happen to be a Gulls fan listening, you want to root for Jani Hakanpää, there you go. And let's go to the other side, the Minnesota Wild. Well, there's a couple names there. Let's go with the first one. John Klingberg, who we had for half a season. I don't think Ducks fans are going to be rooting too much for John Klingberg because he underperformed for Anaheim this season. Yeah, he looked good for maybe 10 games in Anaheim. Not so much the other 40 games. But there's another former Duck on the Minnesota Wild that I happen to like. I might be rooting for him. Sam Steele, who finally broke out of his slump of scoring 6 goals per season and hit double digits, career high 10 goals and 18 assists. He busted out with 28 points this season, including one against the Anaheim Ducks this season. Yeah, who else shed a tear when they saw Sam Steele score a point on the Ducks this season? Yeah, I did. A little bit. So out of those Western Conference players, I have a soft spot for Jani Hakanpää, so why not? I'll go for Dallas on this one. Why the heck not? All right, we're going to head over to the second intermission, and I will give my predictions on this first round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you're locked in with Jason JD Hernandez, and I'm going to do this solo this year. I usually do this with Sarah Avampado, but I'm doing this solo this year, giving my predictions for the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Kind of a tradition to do this every year, so why not just go solo, do it for a segment? So I'm going to start with the Eastern Conference first, and I'm really curious what y'all have for your picks as well. So let's start in the Eastern Conference. Up top, Boston Bruins and Florida Panthers. Look, I have Boston. I had Boston in 4, but I'm going to go Boston in 5 in this one. I think Florida might steal a game, and that might be it. But I've got Boston winning that series easily. Florida kind of slumped their way through bits and pieces of the season, and there were parts towards the end where it looked like they were just limping towards the finish line. And they got there. They overtook Pittsburgh, but that was more so because Pittsburgh blew it. So Florida's in there and going to be the sacrifice, the first sacrifice for the Boston Bruins. Now this other series, Toronto and Tampa Bay. I do think Christmas is going to come again this season. As much as it pains a lot of Leafs fans to hear this, I actually put Tampa Bay in 7 again. Oh, man. I could hear all the folks out there saying, really? You think they're going to lose their 6th? Yes, I believe they're going to lose their 6th consecutive round one or opening round in a winner-take-all series in the last game. Just like last season, I think we're going to see the pain and suffering of the Maple Leafs fans. So I've got Lightning in 7. If somehow Toronto wins this series, I think we're all going to be a little bit surprised. But I got Tampa Bay again. That's all there is to it. They just match up better against Toronto in general. Then the other side, Carolina and the Islanders. I have the Hurricanes winning this one in 6 over the Islanders. The Isles are a very good team. Carolina is a better team. Carolina has a little bit more depth, and gotta feel weird saying this. Brent Burns kind of making a difference right now, sort of. Yeah. So Carolina, you do you. And the Rangers and Devils. I have Rangers in 6 in this one. I think the Devils are pretenders. I honestly think that. They overachieved this season. They are a good team. Did I think they would make the playoffs? I honestly thought that the Devils would have a shot at the playoffs this season. When I did my preseason stuff, I said, Devils could break through. They might be able to get into a wild card spot, but they're improved. Not by this much. And I think we're going to see it in this series. So I have the Rangers over the Devils. Western Conference. Avalanche versus the Kraken. Avs in 6. Avs really barreled through the end of this season. Looked good. So I got the Avs. As much as I love the Seattle Kraken and would love to see them at least win a round, I think it would be great for the franchise to at least win a couple of games against the defending Stanley Cup champions. So I got the Avs in this one. Stars and Wild. This could be a very entertaining series. I have Dallas in 7 in this one. I think they are going to have a very tough time against the Minnesota Wild. So, Stars in 7. And finally, the bottom of the bracket. Vegas in 5. Actually, no. Vegas in 6. Winnipeg will get a couple of games. Connor Hellebuck will take them as far as they can. Brossoit. See, the thing about this series, I've seen Laurent Brossoit have some really good games, but I've also seen him have some really poor games. And I don't know which Brossoit we're going to see. I don't know which Jonathan Quick we're going to see if he plays. So I got Vegas in that one. And then I have the Kings beating the Oilers finally. I know I speak for a lot of Ducks fans when we love seeing the meltdowns of the Edmonton Oilers at home. I did cheer a little bit when I saw the Edmonton fans just lose their collective crap when they lost game 1. And I kind of did an evil smile because I know Oilers fans know how it feels to lose some important games. Need I remind you of the comeback on Catella against those same Edmonton Oilers? And that part of me always loves to see Edmonton just suffer and stew in their own misery. But that's just me. I don't know if that's for all Ducks fans, but it could be fun to watch them lose. And the other partial reason I picked Vegas and the Kings, I want to see the Jonathan Quick revenge tour against the Kings. That could just be entertaining as hell. That'd be fun to watch. So those are my winners. Colorado, Dallas, Vegas, Kings. As far as the second round, well, we'll get there during the second round. All right, that's going to do it for this podcast. We have a mailbag opening up pretty soon. I'm going to record that end of the week, so that will be coming. In the meantime, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Or thanks for listening, I guess, in this one. Don't forget, this podcast is free and available across all platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, ad-free on Amazon and on YouTube. Hit the bell. You could email me at lockedonanaheimducks@gmail.com. And you know what? You can follow me on Twitter at StimpyJD. The show's Twitter is at @LO_Ducks. And you know what? I'm going to say this. Root for the Firebirds as they try to get the Calder Cup. So, yeah. Thanks so much for listening. And, thanks for, just your support. I truly appreciate it, guys. For Locked On Anaheim Ducks, I'm Jason J.D. Hernandez saying have a great rest of the day. Please continue to be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And Ducks, fly together.